the same page, you might not be in a position to set up some goals. But when you get to the same page, at least you'll be in a position to set goals in the family. It will involve everybody. And when it comes to having goals to be set, it will be everybody's business. That means as a mother, if you are the one who did the checking of the rooms and you found some evidence way ahead of time, make sure that you acknowledge all that to your spouse. When it comes to your the communication part, number 2, make sure it's not being handled by one person. Handle it both and make sure you talk about it prior ahead of time so that you can be on the same page when you approach and when you have a communication with the child. From that time, you'll have some goals to be set. Involve this child in setting realistic goals, all right? This home belongs to this family. These are the goals that we're gonna set. Because now they have admitted that this has been happening because of this and this, what goals can you set? And let them be realistic. And also make sure you're not setting up very high standards because this is not gonna happen overnight. And after you set the goals, which are very realistic, make sure that you are rechecking, you are revisiting, you are talking, and these will be a fight that will continue. That way, they'll keep in mind, wow, okay, if they found this in my room, guess what? Mom can come to my room anytime when I'm not there. And I thank God because our doors here are not lockable. So you can pop in your house. If they live in your house, anytime. Try to do that. The one thing that I can finish up with so that we can get into the questioning and the discussion is to make sure that anytime we as parents, we are going through this in the community, in our churches, in the schools, in our families, it's not an issue of one man's job. So if you go somewhere, you hear, oh, there's some rumors going on about what is going on in the community. Please, please, with enough evidence, let's be our brother's keeper. Let's visit the parents of that child, check with them. Are they aware that their child is doing ABC? Are they aware of what is going on? Saying it to the public will not heal our community. Talking about it in groups will not heal in our community, but approaching the right people can help with all that. As I said that, I can tell you, I'm a certified mental health first aid in the US. I'm certified in psychology, in child psychology, and I'm also certified in young children and young adults guiding and counseling. So I'm so open. I have to work in a professional way. And if anything is going on, I'm ready. And the passion for our young adults, our teens, our kids remains in me and part of my life. So I'm so ready to go on fighting this monster. And so many of them that are there that we are ignorant about, not in a bad way, but we do not think they are happening. But I'm so ready to tell you whatever is happening, whatever I've seen, whatever I've witnessed, and we see the way forward toward the healing of our generation to come. Otherwise, I'll get to that part ready for the next session. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you so much, Rose. That was very good, and I appreciate your passion and all the great work that you're doing to benefit our community. Our young people we need some people, many people like you who are passionate and willing to come out and speak about it. I always say, like I said at the beginning, it's good to be proactive. We don't have to wait until something happens. I think we can be proactive and maybe help some things not to happen. I think I see, did I see Dr. Modoni on board here? Dr. Modoni has been a great resource and has spoken in this forum and many forums. And I'm sure many have benefited, and she has not given up talking and sharing from her experience and even offering her time and expertise when it comes to maybe one-on-one conversation. And I think, like Rose said, there are so many resources that out there that we can be able to utilize. But the resources that we have within the community is so much, many that even we have Rose and Dr. Modoni who have always offered their time because they want to see the goodness of our young people in our community. I think, Dr. Modoni, if you have time, do you have something you can be able to add, especially when it comes to the mental health and the effect, the effect or the impact substance abuse have on the mental health? You're on mute.
Can you see me?
Yep, now we can see you.
I just got home, so I'm a little out of breath. But I was listening as I drove home, and it's kind of hard to know what to add to what Rose has said. Thank you so much for sharing all of that information, Rose. I concur with everything that was said. The one thing, so Jeff, you said to talk about the impact of, I guess, the connection between mental health and substance use.
Yes.
One way that one could think about that is, it's sort of when you think about the chicken and the egg, that oftentimes, we think of mental health, of substance use. Whenever you think about substance use, it's really altering one's state of mind, right? It's altering the state of mind and functioning. And so what are the reasons that a person would be choosing to do that? Oftentimes there are some underlying concerns that a person has difficulty addressing, and therefore they're looking for ways to resolve those or not to resolve them. So you're looking to either escape from whatever issues that you might be encountering and not have to deal with. And therefore then you might resort to substance use, using substances as a way to either address or not address whatever challenges you might be experiencing. And what ends up happening then, when I talk about the chicken and the egg, what comes before what, that in itself, the continued use of substances also contributes to increased, it contributes to deteriorations in mental health. Because then a person, when you think about coping resources, it's a maladaptive coping resource. It doesn't make things better. In fact, if anything, it exacerbates the problems that one is experiencing. People who, I think one of the things that I always find interesting with young people, with adolescents, young adults, there's just science that shows that the mind, when you think about just the physical development of the brain, in Kenya, I know there are people here that are not from Kenya, but I just think about like growing up in the village, and when a baby was born and people are holding the baby, we're always really careful about whether not to touch this part of the baby's head, because, and if you looked, you would see sort of like this part is throbbing. And as children grow up, as we get into our early teens, pre-teens, there is the part of the brain that there are some connections in the brain that haven't quite formed. There are gaps in the physiology of the brain that have not quite formed. And I was actually just talking with my children the other day about why is it such a dangerous thing to get into substances? You're much more predisposed to addiction when you start using early. You're much more likely to get addicted when you start using drugs or any kind of substance, and not just a substance, any language. when you start any substance, any sort of addiction, when you start using something, the earlier you start, the more likely it is that you will develop an addiction because of how the neural pathways in the brain work. This is why it's so much easier to learn a language when you're young. Try learning a language at the age of 50, like myself. I'm trying to learn a language. I'm having a really hard time with it because my brain just can't make those connections. And so when you want to teach a person a language, you want to start young, because that very process, the ways in which that information embeds itself on the neural pathways of the brain, is the same way that addictions embed themselves in the brain of a growing individual. So that when you're younger, when you start drinking, say using alcohol at the age of 10, 12, then it's more likely that the impact will be greater, in the same way that a language would stay, that the ability to absorb a language and language skills would stay when you're younger. It is the very same way, the same process that works when you start to use substances early. That's why I think it's really important that that parents are aware, that you're vigilant, and not to be oblivious, not to act as if this, like ignore signs and think, that what you're seeing, you can't really make sense of. So if you're not sure, ask, have conversations. I also often think about just the kinds of examples that we're setting for our children by our own behavior. I speak candidly. I'm not ashamed of my own circumstances in my life. And if people want to talk, people can talk all they want to say. It's perfectly fine. But I have had first-hand experience with addiction in my own family. I say that, sometimes when you don't tell a story, other people take it and make it more powerful. But I own my story. I own the story of my life. I remember when I first met my former husband, a colleague, a friend, this was in Florida, a classmate of mine in my doctoral program at the University of Central Florida said, this guy drinks a lot. Are you sure? And I remember telling her, oh, Heather, this is what Kenyan men do. That's not a problem. She told me about it. And I said, no, this is what our men do. And I just thought, oh, it's a phase, he'll sort of get over it. And I love Jimmy Musangali. He's the father of my children, so I can't say anything terrible about him. He would be the first one to say that. So I'm just speaking really honestly here. But I excuse that because it's what I had become accustomed to. It's what we have become accustomed to. It's what we tolerate and we think of as cultural. When you go to gatherings amongst our community, oftentimes the alcohol is flowing freely and people are having fun and we don't know where our children are. But guess what? They are watching. They see us. They see what we are doing. They hear what we are saying. They normalize this behavior. What they observe amongst us, they normalize, because this is what they grow up with. And so then it's not unusual. So when you're talking to your kids about they're getting into drugs and alcohol, why should they not? If this is what they're observing you do, why are you making a fuss about it when it's what you have really shown them? If you speak a language, if I raise my kids speaking Kikuyu and they grow up to speak Kikuyu, I shouldn't be surprised, because that's what I have spoken around them. If I speak a different language and they grow up speaking that language, I shouldn't be surprised, because that's what they're hearing from me. That's what they're observing me do and say. If they observe me drinking, I say drinking a lot because I think that's the one thing that is really prominent amongst our community. If that's what they're observing, that's a language that we speak. Why should we be surprised when they learn to speak that same language? And then they do it better. They go one step further. And now it's not just about drinking. It's about, oh, we are drinking. So, oh, if you take this marijuana, if you take this weed, if you take that, it will give you the same feeling. Why should we be surprised? Our kids do the things we do. They just do it better, right? They're more experts. They find ways to perfect the things that they have observed us do. And we always hope that our children will outdo us, that they will grow to be better than we are. And so they will do the things they watch us doing much better than we do. I look at my own children. I know that because of who their father is, they have a predisposition to alcohol, to addiction, because of the epigenetics. Epigenetics is a process by which the environment embeds itself in our genetic code. the things about our environment and our bringing embed themselves. So some of that is I just have to be aware that this is what my children are predisposed to. And so I can't be ignorant and say, I'm not going to talk about alcoholism. I'm not going to talk about addiction when I know very well that they're perhaps more likely than the average person to fall into an addiction. So that's something that we have to find ways to talk about, even when it's uncomfortable for me, even when it calls for me to have some really difficult conversations. So start early, do it often, and talk, ask questions. I love what Rose said about confronting. It isn't your job to confront. In fact, what happens, and I'm thinking of confronting as this combative approach to, oh, here's what I found, you're in trouble. When you find something like this, rather than take that approach of combativeness, it's really a place to say, let's talk about this. Let's have a conversation. What's going on, right? What is going on in your life that you feel the need to do this? How can I help? How can I help? It's not this place of you coming in as the authoritarian parent that is, let's get to the bottom of this. What's wrong with you? Why are you doing this? And shaming the family. Because what that tells me is that this child is struggling. This child is struggling, and they're looking for ways to escape. They're asking for help. And my job is to say, how can I help you? I recognize this is a problem. You don't have to be ashamed. You don't have to be ashamed of it. I'm here, let's talk about it. And if we don't know what to do, I always say, I love what you said at the beginning, we're not experts. I am not an expert on my kids, I'm their mother. My daughter sees a counselor because there are things I can't talk about, I can't do with her, right? She sees a therapist because in spite of my being a therapist, I know that that's a valuable opportunity for her. And there are ways that somebody else can work with her that I might not be able to, because the mother in me gets in the way of really working with her effectively. So it's perfectly fine to not be an expert. You don't have to be an expert to have those conversations. You just have to be humble to say, I don't know what to do. The only thing I know is how to love you. The only thing I know is how to be here for you and to help you help yourself. Let's find you the help that you need, right? Not to shame them. So with that, I have talked for 10 minutes and I'm gonna stop there.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Madani. Thank you. That is powerful. I really appreciate your honesty and being able to share from a personal perspective. And I think the one thing I would say, and I'm glad that you mentioned, because I was talking to Sebastian on the same thing, that sometimes even as when we talk about these, people will quick to say, what is it that, what are you talking about? You have also, I mean, nobody's perfect. And until we are able to be willing to first to accept that we can learn from anybody. And I think the best way to learn, the best teacher to teach us is actually people who have experienced it, who have gone through it. Even as we're bringing up the kids, we don't have the perfect kids, but I cannot say that I will not talk about it because people would judge me because of my kids and their character. Or like Rose said, I think it is always good to accept first is that nobody is perfect. You have something to offer, and we all teach. We all teachers. We all also students of life. So thank you so much, Rose. Dr. Madani, for sharing that, and especially when it comes to this particular topic, because even when we were putting it together, we were like, how would people take it? How would people be able to respond to it? But I think unless we talk about it, unless we open and be honest, be vulnerable ourselves and talk about it, and then we'll talk about it in a different platform, which we're not willing to, we're not ready for that. And I'm not sure we will want to, we don't want to get there. So let's encourage each other. Let's listen. Let's be very slow to judge, but be very quick to advise and help each other, because it's because this judgment of things that when you judge somebody too much, then you fail to learn from them, because you're more likely, you're more looking on what that person is, but you forget what that person can have, something that can teach you, they can teach you and probably help you along the way. You don't want to be in a situation where I should have paid attention, I should have listened to so and so, than focusing on their personal stereotypes that we may have put against people. But we fail we miss that important lesson that we learned. Rose has been there talking to about it, and Dr. Maloney talking about it, and myself. Not that we don't have kids, not that our kids are perfect, but we talk about it, and probably when we talk about somebody else, we'll be in a position to sit down and talk to my daughter, and they can listen. And maybe when I talk to you, I talk to some of the kids, I can talk to them and they can listen. It's until we help each other. That way we'll be able to grow and help our community. I think I will let people to ask questions. And if you have a question on the chat, you can be able to. There is one question that was been there. The question is, how does a parent address legal marijuana use? Kids argue from this point, and I think maybe the question is maybe, I mean, as a parent, how do you address it? Maybe where kids, with our current generation, they're embracing it with the discipleship from Mr. Wajokoya. So how do you address that? Can you answer that question? How does parent address the legal, about the legal part? And I think it would be good to hear from you, Rose, or Dr. Maloney.
For legal marijuana, if I can say something about it, it's because in our kids, we know very well, under 18, we have to have consent for their treatments, be it what. We know that under 18, they cannot be treated without our consent. So that is something we have to get involved. And for a child to be diagnosed with something that only marijuana will heal, we have to be in agreement with that. So I don't think there'll be any treatment under 18 that will be consented by a child unless the parent do so. We are better knowledgeable about the issues about marijuana. And the other time we shared about it, and it's in one of my videos that I've shared with the mentees parents, just listen to the consequences of using these things. Like Dr. Modoni said, their brain is so empty. And in the teenage years, that's when the connections are happening. So anything they take to the brain is in a risk of altering their mental status. So when it comes to medical marijuana, above 18 years of age, they still remain our children. And there is one thing that I can talk about, the culture that we have. We have not embraced every American culture that is around us. So at this point, I can say we share the same rules with our young adults. Unlike Kenya, when a kid above 13, not even 18, has a cube outside your house, that way you even have no access to get to that door for sure. But when we have the kids and young adults with us living under the same roof, there are a lot of things that we can discuss with them. I know they're not available 24/7, but anytime you need them, I do believe as long as they're living under your roof, there is a point that you can get them. Can we discuss about what has been going on in your health? Is that something that should be a family concern? If your child has like migraines, which they are using marijuana for migraines, you can imagine, is it something which started from nowhere? Or is it something that has been a family issue that we know that our kid has been suffering from this? So that by the time we get to knowing that the medical marijuana is the only healer to this, I do believe we should have tried other things before we get there. So will it be something they just come with, like I went to the medical marijuana for this without noticing that there was a diagnosis, that you had tried other treatments that failed? Then that's the time that you'll feel like, no. If we did not understand about the diagnosis, if we did not try other treatments, because if it's a real sickness, I do believe it's a family issue, not just a daily headache like it happens. So if it's something that will go to medical marijuana, I do believe it's a struggle for a whole family before they make that decision. So let's not just allow them jumping to that conclusion if it is a serious issue that they have been diagnosed with. We need to be involved. Let's know what they're going through health-wise, so that by the time that kind of a decision is made, we need to all agree to it, which I don't think we can get there. There are other treatments before we get to such kind of treatments. Dr. Modoni?
Thank you so much. I would also add that part of raising kids is hard. We wish we had a manual, but we don't. And even when you have a manual of some sort for one child, it doesn't apply to the other. There is no point in getting into a debate about the legality of one thing or another, because what is legal isn't necessarily, like, legality is the lowest standard to which one should aspire. Just because something is legal doesn't mean it's good for you. So that there's no debate about it. We're not talking about whether something is legal or not. And because there are many other things. If there are many things that are perfectly legal, but that we're not doing because we know they're not good for you, right? So I just would think part of how we do is just shaping the conversations with our children, so that that's not the debate we're entering about legality. It has no place in our conversation. What does it matter whether it's legal or not? I know that's sort of simplifying this very much, but that's just sort of been my approach with my kids. One of the things I say, it's not always perfect, but I say my home is like the Vatican, where the Vatican is inside Italy, but they have their own set of laws. They operate under their very own system. So you have a family code, and that there is a national law, but there's also something that's higher than that. And this is the family, understanding the family rules, the family traditions, and that should always rise above what the government mandates or does not mandate. So I know I'm not really answering that, but I just don't see that as a place. I would not even have that conversation with my kids, frankly. And I know that that's not the case for everybody, that because you're faced maybe with a kid that wants to sort of hop on that. But my thing would be to go back to find that, that's I get it, but that the government is not who decides what's good for you and what's not, and go back to sort of the basics and have that conversation with them.
Yeah, I like that. That's very true. You should not be dictated by the government to know what is good for you, and I think it's knowing the impact that it has on you, and the what at the end of it, where you're getting yourself into it. I think you don't need to worry about the legality or whatever it is. It's just your body, your mind, your health is more important than anything else. I think it's more important educating ourselves and understanding the impact some of these substance can have in our life. and see what's priority, what is important for us, and make an informed decision about it. And that's why we're having this conversation, so that we can hear and address some of those. When it comes to the people who are selling them, they will never tell you the impact it has, because they have to make money. And what happened to you, well, that's none of their business. The business is to get the money from out of it, and that's it. So if you have a question, you can raise up your hand, or you can unmute yourself. We have a few minutes for the questions. Also the comments. Like I said, we are here to teach each other. Nobody's an expert. You may have something that you may want to share that may be helpful to this forum. Feel free to unmute yourself. It is, if you have a question, you can post it on the chat. Mikhail, you want to say something?
Yeah, not a question, but a comment. I would like to thank for those presenters or the speakers. It was really a great presentation. And I learned a lot from these two ladies. And I have a few people from my community. I'm from Eritrea, by the way. So I have people from my community that going through this phase, like using substance abuse. But when now I learn a lot about how to approach those problems. And as a parent, I hear a lot of them, like how to, when it comes to how to approach, we blame the kids why they're using it, instead of acknowledging that there is a problem and approaching, lending a hand to help them escape from that issue. But from this class today, I think I learned a lot. Hopefully I can approach somebody in this way, and then hopefully I can help. So thank you, really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Mikhail. I like your approach because that's what we want. We want people to learn from what you learn from the conversation and take that with you and help somebody else who may not be in the forum. So thank you so much, Mikhail. And it's good to mention Mikhail is also a great financial expert. So we will have him speak to us. We're planning on some forum where we will have him as a guest, and he will be able to share something about financial literacy. Thank you so much for the great work you're doing within the Eritrean community in St. Louis region.
Thank you.
Anybody else with a question or comment? And I think there's something that yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, this is.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, I came late. I was wondering whether you guys recorded the meeting.
Yes, we did part of it. I was driving on the way, so I forgot to press the correct the record button, but we recorded part of it. But anyway, we will. I hope we can do another session also, just to be a part of the part 2 of this, because we want to keep on engaging and talking. Did you have a comment also?
No, I just wanted to know, because I come across, like when I'm going out and ministering with people who are smoking, but I really don't know how to help if somebody wants to stop. So I really don't know how to help. So I was wondering, you know, I didn't come on time, so I didn't hear what the answers.
I think to respond to that probably, and I think maybe Dr. Madani or Rose or anybody else may have an input. I think for me, I would say is to connecting them to the right resources, because some of them may be trying to get out of it, but they don't know. But I think maybe having a way, some of them may have reached a point where they really need help. I think it's having a way to be able to connect them to the right resources. And maybe you may leave 1 or 2 words that may be helpful to them. And sometimes at that time, they don't want to, the worst you can do to them is to show that you're judging. Because at that time, they're really looking for love, and that love might be able to help them make a better decision on what to do next, and connecting them to different resources. I don't know, Dr. Muthoni, you have an input on that? Okay, that's good. Any other person or any other inputs or questions?
Yeah, my name is Faith. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
And I have this issue. I've been talking to some of the children from our Kenyan community and others from here, from America. And now the reason they give about smoking, like smoking weed, is like they say cigarettes, they cause cancer, and weed, it makes you relax, it makes you sleep well. They give all those like good reasons for smoking weed. I don't know how Dr. Muthoni or Rose can help. Like, how can you respond to such answers? Because they are truly convinced like cigarettes, they cause cancer, and you cannot cure cancer. That's what they have been saying. Because me, I interact with our youth and I like talking to them.
Good. That's a good question. Any of the Rose or Muthoni, you can respond to that. The feeling part of feeling good.
That's actually the only thing that we can tell them is like whatever side effects or the effects of smoking and the brain, it comes hand in hand. Like any substance they introduce to their brain, like we said earlier, it kind of take part of some connections in their brain. And as we said earlier, and Dr. Muthoni emphasized on this, that whenever they are growing up, at the age of, I think, 11, 12, there are some connections of their brains which are functioning, and there is some pruning that is done in the brain. So what happens? The connections that were not in use, they are pruned. So at the time of that pruning of some connections in the brain, when they start introducing the substances in that brain, they occupy the space, and the effect of whatever thing they are using will be shown later in their life. So what happens, like when they talk about smoking and cancer, because, and for sure I've done a lot of research, I'm not sure that somebody here will agree with me, but a lot of our Kenyan community, especially men, they do not smoke after they get to America. One person can tell me what happens when they get here, and I do believe the hours of traveling here and coming to find where to buy them kicks them out, and then they end up quitting. So our kids, the reason as to why they do not smoke cigarettes, which I'm very positive, a small percentage of youth are smoking cigarettes. Why? Because they don't have role models. And that is what we want to kind of impel in our kids, that no role model for cigarette smoking. And bear me witness, I've not seen a lot of men in our community smoking cigarettes. So our youth, all our teens, they don't have someone to copy doing that. But when it comes to marijuana, they have friends who are telling them the benefits. And what we need to tell them is that short-term effect they have of calming them down, it will automatically calm their brain completely in the near future. So at this point, they see the chemical substance in marijuana. Yes, it will slow them down and they'll feel calm. But what is the long-term effect of that? Too much of it will put them down. And that's what happens. It will kind of suppress their mental ability, and it will suppress their brain to an extent in the near future. They will not be thinking because they have kind of now messed up their development in their brain. So when they talk about it calms them down, they need to know that it can calm you down completely. That way you're not thinking, and that is one long-term effect of marijuana. So whenever we are fighting all this today, it's because we know what effects we can see in these kids tomorrow. So we need to kind of see the picture of these kids today and compare that kid, if they continue like that, in 5-10 years to come. And that is our fear. And that's why we are here, because I don't want to see that kids in 10 years. I don't want to see those young adults. By the time they get to marriage year, they cannot function as normal adults. Why? Because the thing that they thought in their youth will slow them down and slow their stress, suppress their brain. That way they cannot even think. They cannot function. They cannot take care of themselves. That's what we are fighting today, because we know what tomorrow can bring to these kids if we don't say it now.
I like that. That's powerful. That's powerful. And Dr. Modoni, you want to add something?
I think I might also, so one of the things I've seen you be doing a lot, Jeff, lately is all of these activities that you get, like you've been organizing, like the camping trip, for example, the soccer, the dance activities. It's just been a lot of activities that I've seen, even though I'm not able to participate in many of them. But those provide this, those are a good outlet, offering alternatives. You learn that from early on when you're raising kids, very early on, instead of a way to avoid getting into back and forth with your children is to offer them options, offer them alternatives. We always say, do you want to eat ugali or do you want to eat rice? Not what do you want to eat, because then you can get a range of things that you don't have and you have no way to even get that prepared. So what would you prefer, rice or ugali? And then that limits the options. We get the sense that they're making a choice. So it's really the idea, and I know I'm talking, that's a simple example again, but it really gets to the heart of who we are as human beings, that people like the sense of control, regardless of the age. For a young kid, feeling like you have some control about the things that you're doing, that you have choices about your life. So even at that point, as your kids get older, teenagers, young adults, if you have any kind of impact, provide them alternatives. And when you do, offer them choices, so that then they get to choose something different, to do something different. When a kid has, or when a teenager, when an adolescent, preteen, when they have options, when they have other things to do, they will, oftentimes they're exhausted, or they also attain the same effect of relaxation from exhaustion, from being busy and occupied with other things. So there are ways to do that. That's why people do yoga, for example, and meditation, because it gives you the same sort of calm and relaxation that you might get from smoking a joint or something like that. So providing people with alternatives. And when you do provide alternatives, give them alternatives that are viable, that are feasible, that actually can be done. I won't offer something that I won't be able to make happen. So think about what is your capability, what can you actually offer that you're going to be able to deliver, and provide them with alternatives that might give them the same outcome, and they don't have to find a shortcut that is weed or something else to attain that feeling.
That is, thank you so much for that great answer. I think that's something that you mentioned that I wanted to mention also, that the reason why they're doing this, the reason they're connected to these different friends is because those are the friends they connect. And we've tried to introduce different programs. And I always say, you never know the importance of these programs until you realize that you have lost the child, that you cannot be able to tell, give them any direction. So I always encourage them when they are young. We have programs that are very young, all the way from as young as 5 years old, and let them grow with those friends. I was having a conversation with my wife, and I was telling her, we have my little boy who is 6-year-old, and we say we need to find who are the close friends and friends that I can look in the next 10 years, the direction where they are. That means as I reach out for that friend, I have to look for their parents. I look at their parents and I see the impact, the influence they have on their kids. And I say, I want my kid to be a friend to these. And then all I need to do is to create forums where they meet a lot. So that's why you find I will create a camp night, and I'll reach out to a specific people and say, hey guys, let's go for a camp night for the boys, because I know my kid, my son would hang out with these, and as we born, we do marshmallows there, they will connect with Mr. Karaka, they will connect with Mr. Tony, and in the process, he grows seeing them as a role model. And then when we are there, we can talk about it, different issues as parents. How do we do? What can we do to be great fathers and great parents for our kids? And as they grow, then we have to enroll them into the same program. So you find that the same kids are coming into the chess. Then we are doing the STEM program. You find they're coming in. Then you're playing soccer, they're playing. So there's no way they would not build those friendships. And as they will grow knowing that we do these programs, we do all these. And I was looking at the list of the kids that are actually right now, that we have some of them graduating tomorrow from the AMSO Bridge program. These are kids who were playing soccer when they were 5 years old. And I looked at them, the same kids now are already in doing programs at AMSO because they've grown together and we've created space, we have created time, they're able to meet. So as a parent, I would say, don't wait for them and then when they are high school, that's when you are trying to tell them, finding my own friend, because either way they will find friends. But you have a way to start building those friendships early, and you have to create time. Like I say, hey, I was talking to, as we were speaking, I was talking to Miss Sylvia. She drove all the way from O'Fallon to go and pick up my kid and my son who was somewhere in Florida. And when they are there, they are talking, and I say, you go pick them up, and you're having a conversation. So you have to build those relationships as a parent. You cannot just say, I'm gonna wait for them to decide who's gonna be my friends. And then when they come the friends, you have no influence. You don't know who their parents are and who even if it's an African-American, even if they are Black Americans, they are Americans, Asians, reach out. My daughter was having a day the other day and she wanna go to her friends. So I say, hey, we're gonna go there and I'm gonna connect. I spent a whole hour talking to the parents because I wanna know who they are. And in the process now, I can also know who their daughters is. So building those relationships, you have a big influence because you can't tell them, I don't want the relationship with you. So then what? Who is my friend? So you have to find a way, okay, I'm not gonna do this, but we're gonna go to this. And that's how you are able to influence and cover, because they will reach a point where you have nothing to say. But if you're able to do now, so take advantage of those programs, enroll them. Like now we have a meeting this Saturday for all high schoolers, middle school, that's 12 years and older. We will meet, we'll talk about culture and the South Maryland Heights. After that, we'll go to the swimming at the I think it's Maryland Heights water park. Let them go there and have a conversation and know each other. And then next Friday, we have a talent night. Everybody who's been playing piano, they've been playing violin, all those kinds of stuff. Let them come and show others what they've been doing. And when they see us, others see that they will now try to say, I think I also need to start doing this. Bring them as a parent, like Dr. Modoni said, you also have your presence means a lot. You can't tell them, hey, go to the program. There is a talent night going on. You go there. I'm going to be left home hanging out with my friends because we are enjoying our barbecue here or drinking with our friends, and then you leave them there. Because when they're there, you don't know who they're meeting there. So we encourage parents, please put on your calendar. Next Friday, we meet at Covenant Church. The gym, we will have all the kind of activities, fashion show. If your kid is good in drawing, let them draw. We'll have a table, they come and put their drawing there. If they know how to dance, let them come. And we'll let them encourage and nurture those talents, because you never know where those talents will take them. The other part is that for those who have not received, also there is a STEM program that we are doing with Maryville. We did a camp in June. We do another camp in the first week of August. And I think that session is almost full. I think it's closing tomorrow. So make sure you sign them up between the age of, between that grade to high school. We have a 1 week session on STEM. We just started our own robotic club, which is huge. It's a national robotic club. And we have selected 8 students. The program has been sponsored by Maryville University. All these programs are available for you to keep your kids busy. It's not exciting to see them home, because when they are home watching all Netflix and do the stuff, you have no control what they are watching over there. But if you keep them busy, in the process of being busy, they create their own friends who are busy like them. But when they are home, then they are busy with the people who are doing their own stuff. So I think I will encourage parents. I would be happy to hear somebody calling me, I want to enroll my kid into this, I want to be there. Because it also requires your time. I think, unfortunately, it requires your sacrifice to be there. But I think it's a sacrifice that is worth now, because you will have nothing to worry later in the life than be free now and to have a stressful night later because you don't know what's happening with the kids. I really salute Dr. Modoni when I see you going everywhere with your kids with the volleyball, cheering and all those kind of stuff. I really admire that, because it's an investment that you are doing, and I know you will be able to enjoy the fruit later. So those sacrifices that we make now will be very helpful for us later in life. Other than that, I would say keep on checking. If you don't have any updates from us, we have a parents forums. Be able to join the parents forums. If you have a kid that has a phone and is in middle school, there is a forum that for them. Let them sign up into that and then be able to engage. Keep them busy, because as they do this, we try to make it a little bit more fun with them. We have skating, people are doing skating. We have dancing every Friday. We have soccer, we have chess. I don't know why, and if all those programs are there and none of them of your kid is in any of the program, I think there is a problem somewhere there, because we've made it easy, and I don't think there is any of them that is expensive that you cannot afford. I signed up my kid for soccer program, and I was paying over $300 for 3 weeks. As we only told you pay $80, and they meet every Friday for almost 3 months. And you can't say it's the cost. You can't say it's the cost that is. The transport, we say if they can't come and they need transport, let us know. If not, the best way that I would recommend is you being there, volunteer with them, let them see that you are there, and let them see that you're participating. And I think when it comes to the role model, there's no better way to show them the role model than when they see you participating in this forum. I will leave with a quote that I got from my mom, and I always take with it. She told me, and she said, in Kikuyu, where are the Nigedo Hote Wadana? So there is no way, you have no authority to command your kids and tell them what to do if yourself, you cannot be able to do it yourself. Do it, and then they tell them you can do it. Control yourself, and then you have authority to sit down and tell them, this is how you do it. They may listen, you at least consciously, you know, you did your part and you did fail them because of your character. But I think that's a strong, I always stick with that, and I hope it has helped me in so many ways. Thank you so much. We will have another session, hopefully.
I have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I want to say thank you for everything, Jeff, that you do with the children. It's we have taken advantage of most of those programs and it works out really good. But I was just gonna say, I was talking with my son and a friend, just listen to him, and we just happened to mention drugs, and the friend has moved to a different school district, and he was telling me that in his school, in the bathroom, he finds children just vaping. They're high schoolers, and they offer. So, you know, not all children have self-control. I know he told me he's not interested, but I'm thinking these drugs are everywhere. We might not even find them in their rooms, but you know, wherever they go to school, we don't know what's going on. He said even in his previous school, kids could vape, but not as much as he has seen in his new school. And I'm thinking, when I was growing up, nobody even offered me anything all through college. And these children, it seems like these things are all around them. And sometimes even as a parent, you know, you can't teach them self-control sometimes. I don't know what we can do, how do we advise them even when they go to school, not to engage in whatever, you know, we know we teach them what is right and what is wrong, and you always hope that your child is going to choose and walk on what is right. But sometimes I feel they are also bombarded on every side, you know, with these drugs are everywhere here. So I think, I don't know sometimes what advice, Rose, Dr. Muthoni, you think we could give these children as they're growing up, because they are not growing like we did grow up. Maybe we are not facing the challenges that they are facing here.
Rose, Dr. Muthoni, you have a response to that? That's a good question, Dorcas. It's a tough one. Rose, Muthoni on news.
That is really hard. Yeah, because like you said, it's even, I mean, that's beyond your own environment, right? Because that's how do they engage with the world outside of your home? So even though you can, whatever it is you're doing, then they're going out and they're faced with all of these things that we have not been exposed to. So how to prepare them so that they're ready to have those conversations. So I guess I would say two things, depending on the age of your child. So for people whose kids are young, I know there might be people here with kids who are a lot younger, who are 8, 9, and even younger. Start having those conversations, because you shape those children really early on. Talk about these things. I think one of the things I find is that sometimes we avoid conversations that are difficult, because you think that by talking about something, then you are informing I think by talking about something that you think you're opening up a whole world to your child. And the thing you don't realize is that they already know these things. They're already exposed to that. So talking about it will not introduce something that they haven't already encountered in one way or another. And if by chance they have not encountered it, if they have not, then that provides you another opportunity to say, this is what I know, this happens, and you can expect to see this sort of thing, and how will you react or how will you respond when faced with these kinds of scenarios. The other piece too is actually, now as I'm talking about it, something came to my mind. We talked about styles of parenting earlier. I think we talked about this I remember a conversation about a year, maybe even 2 years ago, where we talked about different styles of parenting. And the approach that many of us tend to take is sort of this authoritarian style. This is a law and you should follow it. This is a rule in this house and you must do as I say. And then we don't develop the kind of conversation or relationship with kids that we really want to have, that helps us prepare them for those challenges that they're going to be faced with. So I forget where I was going with that. I had such a distinct thought in my head about, so when children go out there and they find something that they're unfamiliar with, that they know that the parents are a safe place to come back and have those conversations with, because you have established that this is a safe place for them to have those conversations with. I think a lot of times we, and I'm not saying this to fault us, but it's sort of just naming what I know, I have heard from many conversations that I've had with people, is that we think by allowing our children to interact with people, that somehow the way to control this is by keeping a really firm hold on our kids, so that they don't have opportunities to engage with other people because we're afraid of what will happen when they do. And what happens is that those children feel like they are under, it's almost like they're in a pressure cooker. At the moment they're away from the parental supervision, they don't have the skills, they have not learned, they have not developed skills to resist peer pressure. They haven't developed skills to have those conversations, and they don't have a place where they feel they can come back to and have those conversations with. I remember, again, I think back to my own example of growing up in a place where parents were very strict. My parents were very, very, very strict. You could not talk to another person, especially not if they were a boy, because I'm raised with many girls. I'm one of 6 girls. And so this was just, you never, like, and I mean, I think about it now and I think it was really, I mean, they were acting from what they knew, but it was such a missed opportunity to have a conversation with their children and say, here's what you know, this is how you go about relationships, right? But we didn't have those conversations. And so I think because of that, we've been handicapped in some ways, just about how to engage in relationship, even as adults. And I see some of that just as a result of my own upbringing. And so in the same way, as you're raising kids, having those conversations early, give them freedom, let them spend time with friends. The fact that you shut them at home and limit who they're interacting with, obviously you want to be selective about where they're going, know who their friends are, where they're going, how they're spending their time, so that I'm sort of going around in circles, but I want like from early on that you're having those conversations. When they go, they can come back and say, this is what happened. This is who I talked with. This is what happened. And then they have questions, and you can have conversations about the places that they're going, the things that they're exposed to, not just in places outside of school, but even in school. Who did you have lunch with? Who did you sit with at lunch? And what kinds of conversations are occurring in school? How did you spend your day? Who did you talk with? We often, again, the other thing that our kids are struggling with is loneliness, and sometimes just a sense of like trying to navigate. Like you talked about the kid that's gone to a new school district. I know this is not the case, Dorcas, I'm just using this as a particular example, but just for them, even learning to adjust. So your child in this particular instance, moving to a new school where you're trying to make relationships, you want to find new friends. So if a child offers you, what do you call them, the vape? Because that's sort of the thing that is everywhere now. If somebody offers you a vape, how do you say no when you are trying so hard to fit in and make new friends in this new school? Right? So helping him have that conversation so that then your desire for connection with others does not lead you into making poor choices that you will then eventually regret, or that open the door to, we think about gateway drugs, that open the door and lower the bar for that which is unacceptable. So I'm going to stop there and let Rose chime in, because I feel like I'm just kind of going around in circles.
On that point, Dorcas, the one thing that I can say at this point, it's a challenging question, and I do believe most of us parents, we are kind of stuck on that part on how do we deal with this, or how can we advise them on how to go about things. Like I said earlier, there are two things that you cannot go wrong with. First is what we have believed in and how we have brought our kids. So when we turn to the Word of God, that is one thing that I'm very positive that you can not go wrong with that. Look for those Bible verses which can tell them of what our bodies and how we should take care of our bodies, so that we can know what to feed our bodies, what is good and what is not good for our bodies. The other thing is, like Dr. Muthoni said, we need to talk to them about things that are in the world, because if we do not do that, somebody out there is waiting to feed them all the information that is in the world. So what does that mean? Asiyefunzwa na mamake hufunzwa na ulimwengu. Ulimwengu is there to teach them. So when it comes to all these things that we and our cultural practices, we do not talk about, it is out there, it is being spoken, they are being fed a lot of information in the wrong way. So whatever retro information that we know about something, let us feed it to our kids in a positive and in a godly way. That way, when they get out there, the real information they know from their parents, at least will kind of cut the connections and will cut this pushing of a lot of things. And like another lady said somewhere, if I have not told you about it, anybody who introduces you to something new, tell them to hold on. Come ask your mama about it. That sounds silly. It sounds stupid. But guess what? That can save a lot of kids. Maybe young ones, but in the real sense, if you have not thought about them, let them come and find out more about it from you, rather than accepting it from the community, from friends, and from out there, because everybody out there offering all these things is ready to mess up the brain of these kids. But I do believe the best friends they have, the parents, the family, who is ready to read them and guide them in godly ways and in ways that will not mess up their brains and their memories.
Great, great. I think that's really good answer. I really appreciate Rose and Muthoni. I see Maina Wakuria raising hand over there. Do you want to say something or ask? I see you are still on mute. Maina Wakuria. Well, I don't know if you're still there. Is it the same?
I think
Okay.
that was Kevin, Joyce. Jeff, I think that was Kevin. That hand has been up for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. I texted him and
yeah,
told him to respond. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I think just to make a comment and just say thanks to Dr. Muthoni and Rose. Just to echo what I say, my only comment is that whatever we are dealing with here is something which is really magnitude. It's kind of like a tsunami, because we're talking about a multi-billion industry fighting with these kids now.
Mm-hmm.
They've really offered what they want, and they have all the avenues. We have all set infrastructure to damage these kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they want these, what kind of product they want, it's readily available. We know the social media, there's another infrastructure which has been set for them to have easy access to them. So my point would be that it's upon us individual parents to talk to our kids, We know the community cannot really help much, but the community can only reinforce what we as parents we've done. But we cannot let the community just do it alone. Let's start from home. Once I talk to my kids, Jeff talks to your kids. Once they meet, they'll have a story to share. Let's not leave these kids just to be taught out there, whereby I talk to my kid. Jeff, you don't talk to your kid. Once they meet, then again, it's an addiction, you know, and they'll get some information and they're gonna fill that vacuum. If they don't get that information, they'll get it somewhere. And these kids, we're not with them all the time. They have these gadgets available at any one time. That information about the products in the market, products being offered just to make them high in quotes, they know more than we know. Maybe even they have the apps about them, we don't know. So if we don't guide them, we tell them the bad part of it, the negative part of it, the side effects, even about their future, because these kids gonna go and they may be looking for employment. Down the line, maybe they may be drug screened. So we need to start, you know, alarming them that anything they do right now has a repercussion. It has a really effect when it comes to their well-being. So I would say the community, it's upon us as individually, let's try and shape them. And then the community will try and reinforce maybe whatever we've really input to these kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. That's powerful. I don't think I need to add anything on that. I think that is powerful, and I wish we take up the challenge as parents, everyone, to do something like you said. I see Maina is back. If you're there, I don't want to close you out on this. Go ahead.
Jeffrey?
Yes.
This is Kevin. Thank you for this forum, and I appreciate even the speakers, Dr. Modoni and Mama Njeri. So my question, and this I have learned from my line of work, you know, most kids that you find in drugs, they have an underlying mental health issue, mostly depression. My question then goes to Dr. Modoni and Mama Jerry, if they can enlighten us on this. How does a parent get to find if a child has an issue with depression early enough? Because if a parent is able to figure out a child has depression or not early enough, then the depression can be controlled or treated, and then the child doesn't get to the down the line of using drugs. And by that, I don't know how well that can be used. Their depression screening, can that be done at, if a child is going to see the primary care or pediatrician, when they are appropriate? I'm not saying for younger kids, I'm saying for teenagers especially, because as a parent, you might not be able to see it if a kid has some depression tendencies, but maybe the pediatrician or the primary doctor that the child sees in an annual basis, maybe they might do some screening, and that can be caught early. Just my suggestion. My other point to that, I had asked about the legality of marijuana, because I had a child, let me not call a child, this is a young adult who argued about the legality of marijuana. Yes, and one of the parents mentioned it, that marijuana doesn't have an effect, but unfortunately, marijuana has become a gateway drug, and I have seen it in my line of work, meaning the child will taste a certain variant of marijuana, then they want to be high on something else, and that the whole process spiraled down to something else that maybe the child didn't think of it. Then Anthony mentioned something very important, that some of these drugs the kids can get into legal problems, and this can have consequences down the line. I have met an adult who was crying, saying that he messed up his life when he was a teenager. Because when you get to a drug problem as a young person and you end up having a felony put on your record, it stays with you for the rest of your life. So I think it's also good to let the kids know the consequences of some of these drugs if they get to a legal problem. Maybe Dr. Muthoni or Mama Njeri can explain or give us how the screening of depression can be done early enough. Thank you.
Dr. Muthoni, go ahead.
I'll respond to this because I have to leave in a few moments, and then I'll leave it to Rose to finish up. But I know that every time I've taken my kids to the doctor, that's often a question. You know, they do a screening, but the question is, again, the questions they ask. I know they're asking in my presence, and so I'm always mindful of the fact that they're asking those questions, and will the fact that I'm there influence how my children respond to those questions? I think if a parent were concerned about it, I might ask the physician if I went in, because that this would be part of their screening, and anytime you go in for any kind of visit, when you're going for shots that are required for school or for different kinds of activities, that I might request that and request to be outside the room, actually, if it's something that I'm actively concerned about with my kid, so that they can have a conversation with their doctor in my absence and give hopefully what would be honest responses. And if there's need for follow-up, then they can get a referral. But I'm glad you bring that up, because I think that's a really, really important thing. That's a great resource that most people, that at least, you know, just your family doctor, your primary care physician is a really good first line of defense. And if you have questions or concerns, express those to them and offer to I don't know how you would do that, but offer to not be present for that particular part of the interview if you think it would help. But the other thing about that also is, I heard Rose, when I was driving home, talk about knowing your child. So that, you know, I've always said, even just adult, when we think about depression or anxiety or other kinds of mental disorders, oftentimes these mental disorders, we see them by a change in behavior. There'll be a marked change in behavior. You can only know this if you know somebody, if you have been paying attention. Again, I really believe in, there's nothing as bad as secrets. I just believe in owning and speaking truthfully. I knew a child, it's my own child, and she'll talk about this herself anyway. There was a particular time that she was going through some really, really hard things in her life. And I knew she was struggling, but I didn't know the extent to which she was struggling. And then I started to see her wear, even in really warm weather, she would always wear long sleeves. She'd always wear long sleeves. And I'd get her to, you know, girls like to show off their body and wear sleeveless tops, and she wouldn't wear sleeveless tops. And I started to, this was just one thing that I was noticing among many other things that I was observing. I knew she was struggling. And it wasn't until, so I decided I'd wait till she went to bed. And then late in the night when she was sleeping, I went and I pulled her sleeves back up, and I saw that she had started to cut. And she would be cutting her arm, because it was a thing that she had learned from other kids, but it also is a way that kids are coping sometimes when they're dealing with depression or anxiety, mostly with depression. That cutting is one of the behaviors that we observe, and that will tell you a person is struggling. I speak candidly. If people talk about, like, honestly, if you would use this against me, that's on you, not on me. But I say this because, again, even as a mother who's a mental health counselor, my own children sometimes have struggled, and I have to be aware and see how can I support them and have those conversations. When I saw that, in order for me to see that there's a difference, I have to know my kid. And when I see behavior that is different from what I'm used to, then that's where then I go into sort of some investigation without confronting. And then after I saw this, then obviously I was really worried about it. We sat down, we talked, what's going on? How can I help you? What can we do? And found additional resources of help for her. But just that, I say that as an example. It's not, I know we gotta leave. I know, I'm coming. We're leaving just now. Okay. Okay, we're leaving. I gotta go. So this is me being rushed off because I have to drop my kid off somewhere. But yes, being aware of who your child is, addressing changes that you see, not being afraid to have those conversations, using the resource of a primary physician. But I also really like the idea of like, nothing is harmless. It's just this, like to downplay the impact of something, because as we know, just from research, we have, you mentioned it, gateway drugs, that doing one thing makes it easier to do the next thing, and those boundaries just keep coming down. And before you know it, you're looking for something more. I remember when I was in Ohio, getting my master's degree in counseling, the judge there in a small town, that's the beauty of living in small towns, he allowed me to sit in court one day. And one of the kids that came to him, it was juvenile court. It was a young man, age 16 or 17, who had, because of addiction, he had broken into a house to steal something that he could then sell so he could buy drugs. And unfortunately, what he stole was a necklace in the house that he broke into. This necklace happened, he didn't know it. He thought it was just a harmless thing. The necklace he stole happened to be a very expensive necklace. So what does that mean? Then it's the value of the item that he stole. It was no longer petty theft. It was a felony because it rose above the value of the necklace may have been $700-800, but then it turned his offense from petty theft to a felony. And this is a kid that was 17. So the conversation was very different. So something that started out just fairly simple to feed his drug habit turned into something that turned into a record for him. Because now he was going to be charged as an adult because he was 17 going on 18, and he was being charged with a felony that would remain on his record. So just thinking about the consequences of some small actions, the way you address that is not in a lecturing way. You're not sitting and lecturing your kid, but really truly having a conversation with them and seeking to engage them. I'm going to transfer this to my phone so that I can continue to listen to the conversation as I drive Tabby to her game.
Good job. That's good parenting right there. That is how you know your child. Thank you. Good luck. Thank you so much. All right. I think we're going to have Rose respond to that, and then we'll close it up. We also want to go back and check our kids now.
All right. Like Dr. Muthoni said, in our second step of this conversation, we talked about the communication parts. And that is the part whereby the kids will tell you the reason as to why they are abusing drugs. One thing that I talked about is whatever they are going through is something they have to look for a coping mechanism. And we stated that if only we can get the baseline of what they are going through, that's the only time we can refer them to therapists and refer them to special people who can help them career-wise. In that statement, like Dr. Muthoni said, I know our kids below 18 years of age, when we take them to the pediatrician, sometimes there is that option. Do you want mom to be here? Do you want her to be out? I'll prefer now as parents to request to step out, because they might be free with their primary physician when we are not there than when we are there. They might hold a lot of information in our presence. So it's good if we can step out so that they can disclose, at least be open to the pediatrician and share all this information. Just reminding us that above 18, you'll never be questioned about them. Whether they are using these substances, you'll be too far away from being asked about it. At below 18, one thing I'm not very sure whether the pediatrician can be helpful in this. When you do the first step of acknowledging and being knowledgeable of what has been happening and even getting evidence, it is advisable if you come into terms with it. Under 18, you can even ask for drug screening. Marijuana is one. Actually, 90%, we see it in our workplaces that 90% marijuana is being used by young adults. So if you feel comfortable with your pediatrician and your kid, that has to be a three-way traffic, not two-way. The kid has to be agreeable to it. The pediatrician has to be agreeable to it. We can also continue with drug screening for them so that we can see what are they using. And this is when they get to a point of opening up. They're doing it and they need some help. But like Kevin asked about kind of knowing whether they are depressed or not. Dr. Modoni, and I had mentioned that earlier, that anytime you see a change of behavior in your child, it's time to intervene. They sleep too much. They don't want too much to do with everybody else. They're in the rooms too much. Something is going down. For depression, the moods go down. Please try to intervene as soon as you see these characters happening. That way, they don't look for alternatives before everything gets out of hand. Thank you.
That we're going to come to an end. Thank you so much, Rose. I appreciate your time and great thoughts, but also all the great work that you do in the community. And like also Tony said, that there is very little we can do as a community if as parents we are not doing the very important things at home. So thank you for the great work that you do, offering your help and time and talking. I see with the girls that you take them out and having those conversations. It's very helpful. But I like Tony said and others, and I think about also Dr. Maloney said, and you said at the beginning that the parents, we need to step up and do some basics, a very important role in the beginning. So when they come out of the community, the work will be easy, and they can also be easy to follow and listen. Thank you also for everyone who's been with us. I really, really appreciate everyone for being with us for almost 2 hours. But it's a 2 hours, it's a great investment. And that tells me that there is people who are there that really, really concerned and they care. And we want to make take those actions and thoughts and implement them so that we can be able to help our kids. The reason why I am concerned and I care, even if I do much at home, I still want to make sure that when the kids goes out, they meet somebody, whoever they meet there, their parents have also invested equally in their kids. And that way there will be less influence that will come in. Like Dorcas was saying, that kids, they're really bad, have a lot of influence out there. And the only way to reduce those influences when we get everybody else, mold the kids when they go out. There will be more people to say no, that to find is only one kid who is saying no to around 30 or 50 of them that are already in it. So the ideal is to, yes, they'll be there, but ideal is to increase the number of kids who will be willing to say no. Because it's easier to say yes, but a no will always come with an explanation. But a no, we need to build to have as many kids so that that kid who says no doesn't feel left out. Because there are many of them that are okay with saying yes. But giving them enough guts and enough stamina to say no to some of those influence, that's why we are here, to help each other and build each other. Thank you so much for your time. Remember to remind your kids, we are meeting again on Saturday at Maryland Heights. I shared more information on the chat. I shared also, for those who are in high school, there is a bridge program that is going on, registration is going on for the Saturday. The summer program is over. But the one that's coming for Saturday, beginning of September, please sign up before the deadline. It's one of the best programs I recommend. The middle school, the one they did this summer in high school, we have a great graduation for them tomorrow at Renaissance Hotel tomorrow in the morning. And we congratulate those who have finished, including the parents who were taking their time, because those kids were at the school by 7:30 in the morning, they were there. And I know many of them refused to sign up because of the time. It's a sacrifice. They made it to get there by 7:30 in the morning every day for 4 weeks. Thank you and congratulate you all the parents who were able to sacrifice to take their kids there. Thank you for your time, and stay tuned for the next conversation. But above all, let's pray and help each other. May the spirit of the Ubuntu be with us as we build our community. Bye-bye.